This is the story of a kidnapping, dressed up as a birthday party. The story of a sovereign nation that disappeared, replaced by a postcard and a military base. We are sold a fantasy. Hawaii, a voluntary American state born from luau's and aloha. But peel back the pageantry, and you find one of the most successful cover-ups in U.S. history. A brazen, illegal overthrow, a fake republic, and an occupation that continues to this day. So, this is a critical history of the United States annexation of Hawaii. This is not about sun and sand. This is about sugar, imperialism, and the enduring power of a lie. First, let us dismantle the foundational myth. Before 1893, Hawaii was not a collection of simple native tribes. It was a modern, recognized, sovereign nation. It had treaties with over 40 nations, including the US, Britain, France, and Japan. It had a constitutional monarchy, a literate population, a thriving newspaper industry, and embassies worldwide. The Iolani Palace had electricity and telephones before the White House, thanks to King Kalakaua adoption of modern technology after meeting Thomas Edison. The Kingdom of Hawaii was a peer in the community of nations. It sent diplomats to Washington, D.C. and London. Its sovereignty was unquestioned in international law. This context is crucial. What happened was not a colonial discovery, but the dismantling of a contemporary state. So, what threatened this sovereignty? Two words: white planters. American missionaries, who came to so-called save souls, soon realized there was more profit in sugarcane. They amassed huge tracts of land, often through dubious means, and their plantations became the economic engine. But they chafed under Hawaiian law, particularly the monarchy's power and a constitution that gave the native Hawaiian majority a voice. In 1891, Queen Liliʻuokalani ascended the throne. A fierce nationalist, she sought to draft a new constitution to restore power to the Hawaiian people and curb foreign influence. For the sugar barons, this was an existential threat to their profits and political control. What was their solution? It was a coup. With the secret backing of the U.S. Minister to Hawaii, John L. Stevens, and a committee of 13 white businessmen and lawyers, they formed a committee of safety. Their plan was simple: use the threat of U.S. force to depose the Queen, then immediately seek annexation. On January 16, 1893, Minister Stevens ordered the landing of 162 U.S. Marines from the USS Boston. They marched into Honolulu under orders to protect American life and property, but their presence had one unambiguous purpose: to intimidate the Queen. On the next day, Queen Liliʻuokalani's statement said, "I yield to the superior force of the United States of America. I protest against any and all acts done against myself and the constitutional government of the Hawaiian Kingdom." Faced with an illegal act of war and wanting to avoid bloodshed, Queen Liliʻuokalani surrendered not to the conspirators, but to the United States government itself, trusting it would correct the wrong. She was placed under house arrest in her own palace. The conspirators instantly formed a provisional government, and then the Republic of Hawaii, with Sanford B. Dole as president. But there was a problem: President Grover Cleveland. Cleveland ordered an investigation. The resulting blunt report was unequivocal. It found the overthrow was an act of war made possible solely by the unauthorized use of U.S. forces. Minister Stevens had acted improperly. President Cleveland called it a grave wrong and urged the restoration of the Queen. Cleveland's position was clear in international law. The overthrow was illegitimate, but he didn't use military force to reverse it. He left it to the so-called honor of the U.S., which, under Dole's regime, simply refused. This created a 5-year period of a puppet state, the so-called Republic, which existed only to lobby for annexation. So, for 5 years, Hawaii was an illegitimate republic, run by the same men who orchestrated the coup, denying the vote to most native Hawaiians and Asian immigrants, while desperately petitioning a reluctant Washington. What changed? Geostrategy and war. The Spanish-American War broke out. Hawaii became the crucial coaling station and naval gateway to the Philippines and Guam. The military argument overpowered the legal and moral ones. But there was still a hurdle. A treaty of annexation required a 2/3 vote in the U.S. Senate, which supporters knew they couldn't get due to controversy over the coup. So, their solution was to use a joint resolution of Congress, a simple majority tool meant for domestic issues, to annex a foreign country. A clear bypass of constitutional and international law. In 1898, Senator Richard Pettigrew said, "We have stolen Hawaii." It was a crime from beginning to end. In July 1898, with no consent from the Hawaiian people, under a process of dubious legality, the U.S. claimed the islands. The Hawaiian flag was lowered. The occupation was formalized. The 20th century was a project of erasure and exploitation. Native Hawaiian language and culture were suppressed. Land was seized for ever-expanding military bases that now cover over 200,000 acres. The economy was reshaped into a tourist monoculture selling a sterilized, palatable fantasy of aloha. But the story did not end. In 1993, on the 100th anniversary of the overthrow, President Bill Clinton signed Public Law 103-150, the Apology Resolution. It was a landmark admission, acknowledging the illegal acts of U.S. agents and the deprivation of Native Hawaiians' right to self-determination. The Apology Resolution is a powerful tool. It is the U.S. government's own signature on a document that says, "We committed a crime." It is not the end. It is the starting point for justice. Today, a vibrant sovereignty movement continues. Some seek nation-within-a-nation status like Native American tribes. Others, like those in the Hawaiian Kingdom government, argue the state never legally dissolved and call for full restoration and deoccupation. So, was it an annexation or an occupation? The historical record is clear. First, a sovereign nation was recognized by the U.S. Second, U.S. military force, used without authorization, enabled its overthrow by private interests. Third, it was annexed via a legally questionable domestic process, without the consent of the governed. The occupation of Hawaii is not a historical footnote. It is an ongoing reality of environmental degradation, cultural commodification, and political disenfranchisement, built on a crime the U.S. government has formally admitted. Understanding this is not about casting blame on modern Americans, but it is about confronting a fabricated past to understand the contested present. It is about recognizing that paradise has a price, and it was paid by a people who never agreed to the sale.